Right. Pretend that it's not recording and then it'll feel fine. But yeah, you were saying you leaving teaching. Is that what you were just saying?
No, just that like it was so challenging for me to even participate in it. Like when I got in it, it was because I chose. I wanted to. I love children, truly. I love to have fun. I love learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and that's what makes good teachers. That's what makes good leaders. It's not somebody who says, "I know everything. I'm done learning. Let me give it to you." It's an ongoing thing forever. So I really enjoyed aspects of teaching. The longer I was in it, I was only really in it for about 3 years, not including my college time, prepping to be a teacher, but really in the classroom for 3 years. And it took me 3 years what it takes some women teachers 10 years to figure out, 30 years to figure out. And I think like my mother was an educator. And I think when she was in it, things were different. Parents were more involved than they are now. Technology wasn't where it is now. Like off the bat, things were different, but just that doesn't necessarily mean better. Um, I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, no, that's fine because I agree the classroom has changed. And I even when I was in school being a student, like I questioned it where I was like, why am I learning the same history lesson every year of high school or from
Mhm.
seventh grade, through? Like I was like, what is the point of this? And then but I'm not getting what I need over here. I remember my parents teaching me like how to balance a checkbook and
Oh
these
yeah.
these are the bills that we have to pay. And I was like, well, why am I not learning more about this in school? Not life skills necessarily, but like when we do math, why
Hmm.
can't it be word problems
Relatable math, something that
right?
like tangible that human beings use, right? Like
Yes,
I have
exactly.
never once had to, divvy up apples between Johnny and Sue,
Yes,
and,
yes.
and for me, off of that was like history. My grandfather was a history buff, like obsessed. You know how some men like love barbecuing? My grandfather loved history. He was a history teacher. He loved it. And my father was German. And so I had a European, history teacher at home. And then I had Texas history at school. And then even world history in public education in Texas was different than like what my dad would tell me, and it just depends on where you grow up, what they share. Everybody has a perspective. War is an industry, and that's not something they teach, right?
Yeah, right.
Those are
Well,
the bad guys. We're the good guys. This is what we did in retaliation. We need to feed our people. Every country has that logic.
yes. I mean, that was part of my question of history. I was like, we keep learning about these wars, and I have to memorize these generals' names and all of this stuff. And I was like, but how does that pertain to me?
Hmm.
And as being a citizen, being an American, being a human being, right? And like you're saying, across the world, we're all kind of getting a different perspective of what happened and
It's
how
because
many.
propaganda, and like that's something that European students are taught. Because you know that American propaganda is a course, and they teach that in European colleges. They teach that in other parts of the world.
How interesting is that, right? But how definitely wouldn't find that in an American college, I feel
No,
like.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, every country has used propaganda in the history of the world at some time. But North America specifically, has such a control over media and like their censorship, and that's why it's so important. This like right to free speech, the right to the truth. Censorship is a dangerous, dangerous thing, and I've heard other people in positions of power who have spoken on like, when I entered North America, I feel like I'm cut off from the rest of the world. And it's frightening because I was just in wherever they were, with like watching the news casually. And it's like, then I come here and I turn on the news, and it's astounding because they purposefully omit things. They purposefully frame things in a certain way. They leave certain things out, and it's by design. It's to keep the American population unaware.
Absolutely. And that, I mean, that is rampant in our school system, in our curriculum. All of it is keeping you here, and not only just keeping your perspective, I feel like, but keeping your ability to problem solve, to be an innovative thinker, to question the status quo, literally.
Correct. Well,
Not
they don't want questions. They want obedient workers. And lots of
yes.
people know this, maybe some don't, but public education was based off of the Prussian model of schooling, right? Where they wanted obedient, mindless workers, not self sufficient, independent thinkers. They don't want artists and creators. They want people to clock in and clock out. And this was all done by design. Rockefeller medicine, Rockefeller education. It was by design.
Absolutely. I was just talking to my grandpa about this because I don't intend to put my daughter in the public school system. And so we've talked a bit about that because my grandpa's 80 years old and he's watching what's happening. He really tries to keep up with the times. He's like interested in TikTok, he's like trying. Um, but so I was talking about the school bell being a thing, like something as simple as that was conditioning to be able to go into a factory and when the bell rang
Hmm.
at a lunch break
Having
and
to ask, I'm just going to add to that, having to ask to use the restroom. Also, for the sake of this conversation, we're going to call them problem kids, even though like there is more to children's needs and development, and there's always something happening at home. There's always something happening at home. But just for the sake of this conversation, the problem kids, the ones with behavioral outbursts, food sensitivities, abuse at home, the conglomeration of all of it. Well, I learned quickly in elementary school that like you get to go play if you act out. What do you mean Timmy throws a fit, cries, stomps his feet, refuses to work, throws a chair, and he gets to leave and go hang out with the principal? And they walk around and he gets a sucker. So he misses math. And then he comes back. Well, then that happens multiple times a year. And he still graduates to the next grade. Fun fact I found out recently in my education journey, I was subbing for second grade, and this one little girl could not read. I didn't realize truly she could not read because we have a small table. So for every subject change that we do throughout the entire day, she had to come to my desk, and it was part of my job to read to her. So not only was I whole teaching for the entire class, I had to stop and break and independently teach this little girl who literally could not read. And I asked her, I was like, you can't read, but you're in second grade. And that caused a big problem. Apparently, you can't say that as teacher. She goes home and tells her parents. I get called into the principal's office, and they're like, "Did you say this?" I said, "Yes, I did." We know that you didn't mean to be, detrimental to her learning ability and like her willingness to come back. And I said, no, my goal is never to shame a child into not wanting to learn or to not feel safe in the classroom to ask questions, be a part of the group. However, how is this conducive to number one, whole group teaching, right? How is this conducive to her independent learning? It's not. And her response was, well, it's really up to the parents if they want to hold the child back. And that was just wild to me. What's the point of the standard if the parents get to choose? What's the
right. Well,
point of
and
what's the point of a standard?
all this pressure on the test, and this is something else my grandpa and I were talking about, was all the pressure they put on this test that we have to teach the test. And then
Mm-hmm.
after they've taken the test mid-April or whenever it is, there's not really much curriculum left. They watch movies,
No.
they bullshit for the rest of the semester because we've accomplished our job here. They got to the test, they completed the test, we had to memorize it, what was in the test. And my grandpa and I were talking about, he was in the military and he trained and educated on certain technology in the military, and he was saying that they didn't do a grade system. They did a test that says, do you know the information?
Mm-hmm.
Can you apply the information? And if you didn't, you retook the same thing, but every time that you showed that you knew it, they would apply another layer where they grew the knowledge, right? They extended more information to you. And he was like, it wasn't like a shameful grade and all these tests. He said it was literally like, do you get it? Did you
Mm-hmm.
obtain the information? And if you didn't, what did we miss? Right. He said there was, different topics within the test so that you could see this was the area that I fell short. And they could go specifically into that. And so he was like, I don't understand why the school system, is doing all these tests. And it's, I know in high school, at least, it used to be that if you didn't pass the test, you didn't get to graduate. And there were so many people that they got passed along, like you're saying, in first and second grade. They're getting passed along without being able to read. And then they enter high school, and there's this
Mm-hmm.
pressure of like, I didn't get the foundational knowledge. They just moved me along. And now the pressure's on
Every,
to graduate and I'm not
right,
because of a test.
right, right. Well, public education, public schools get funding the higher their test scores are. And that's why it's disproportionate to different schools for different reasons, right? Like different urban areas, depending on the socioeconomic development of that area.
That part.
Kids don't have access to their base needs, right? Hierarchy, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're not sleeping, you're not eating, there's violence at home, you're not present for school, you're not retaining anything. Those
Yeah.
kids are at a disproportionate disadvantage. There's all these statistics that show like which kids fall through the cracks more often and why. Um, and then there's something called the school to prison, the state funding to school prison to, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, state funding to prison pipeline. And
Yes.
so they use the statistics of who passed, who didn't, in order to build how many prisons they need to build. Because statistically, right, these children are growing up into adulthood. So statistically speaking, the percentage of children who do not pass these tests equals the percentage of new population they will need in these prisons. It's a
That
very
is,
frightening dystopian
yeah,
piece of
it is.
information.
These are the things that they don't talk about. They're not having PTA meetings talking about, hey, when your kid's not passing, they have a higher likelihood to go to prison later. Like nobody's saying that. They're saying
Well,
what's
no,
next? What's next are you bringing and things in which
correct, correct. And I got so I don't want to say lost, but like I was just horrified at the food situation because of my own personal experience with having a body, with having mineral deficiencies. I have this gene mutation called MTHFR, so I cannot have a synthetic form of B12. Well, what has North America done? Well, they've destroyed the food quality, right? So all of the food is farther from the source. It's not the same corn that it was 60 years ago. It's not the same potato. All of
right?
it's been broken and distorted, and it's more filler, more preservatives. And the science people love to argue that like it's just a little bit, it's fine. It's just a little guar gum in every single thing you're consuming. It's just a little folic acid. Folic acid is what they spray on all of the wheat products. It's a synthetic form of B12. The natural form is folate. So children like me who were not diagnosed, they don't know. So they're consuming bread for breakfast because what's the cheap stuff? Honey buns, cereal, Wonder Bread, Pop Tarts, it's all that garbage. It's damaging their gut lining. It's inflaming their brains. It's giving them these behavioral problems. They're not bad kids. Their brain is inflamed. Their skin is itchy. They have migraines. They're literally crawling out of their skin. And it's because poverty, lack of education. Their parents don't know. Well, I grew up on Pop Tarts and I'm fine. I ate Kellogg's cereal and I'm fine. I ate
I want
Wonder Bread and I'm fine.
I want to pause on that
Susan, you are
there.
not fine.
Yes, exactly. Because we have the highest percentage of like mental illness
Mm-hmm.
or
Yep.
I don't even want to call it illness necessarily. It's dis-ease in the body, in the mind, right? It's disconnect. We're all dissociated from ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
again, this is all part of the agenda. There is
Mm-hmm.
these things happen for a design. There's a design to it, but that I hear it so often of like, but it was fine the way that my parents did it or the way that I do it. And then on the flip side, I see so many parents who are changing their lifestyle, saying, I need to work out, I need to eat healthier, but continue to feed their children the
Yeah.
stuff that they cannot now eat because it's unhealthy for me. And it has created
Yep.
these issues. And I'm like, but why would we not
It's, I'm
go
going to
ahead?
give you the hard truth. Do you know why? It's lack of accountability. That's all it is. It's, this is too hard. I
Yeah.
can't do it.
I can't even do it
Give
for
it,
me. So I
give
really
it to the
can't afford it.
teacher, give it to the state. Like you
Yeah.
look a parent in the dead of their eyes and you say, you think the state can do a better job than you? That crushes me. That breaks my heart. That
Yeah.
breaks my heart. These babies deserve better. And it is overwhelming. For someone like when I first started my health journey, my understanding of the corruption of the state, the corruption of the world, the the Rockefeller education design model, the broken food design model. It's overwhelming. It crushed me. I honestly, I honestly was so paralyzed. I wouldn't say by fear, but just by like dismay that I
Like,
had to like
oh,
put the book, I had to put the book down. It was too much.
yeah.
Right. And that's how I learned. It's like, it's too much. You put it down. You
And
build your
you still have,
capacity. You read a
yeah.
little more. You put it down. You learn a little more. You put it down. And sooner or later, your capacity builds and you're able to like stop putting it down. I'm not so affected by it. I know too much now. But
Yeah.
again,
And
that
that
was,
goes the same for making changes in your lifestyle. It's like a little bit, get used to it. Do a little bit more, get used to it.
mhm.
A lot of people too, when they try to change their lifestyle or their parenting style or any of those things, it's like all at once because I've learned so much. Now this layer of truth has been peeled back for me. It's been revealed to me and I need to change it all. And then we keep falling back into our old pattern because it's too much. We're collapsing under it. We don't have the capacity to do all of it at once, to
Mhm.
uproot our entire foundation and routine and structure that we have.
and to
So,
and to unlearn truly is hard. And not everybody has the want to do it.
yeah.
That's and that was hard for me as a teacher, to witness these parents who have essentially given up, right? They feed their kids poison. It's literal garbage. It's literal garbage. And these babies open their snack boxes or they open their lunch boxes and it's every single thing is prepackaged. Maybe they had a sandwich like a PB&J or tuna, whatever, ham and cheese, but everything else is processed, refined sugar, hella processed. It's very disheartening. School lunches aren't great either.
Oh
And
yeah.
a
I
lot
mean,
of and a lot of people want to argue like, well, fed is best. It takes it back to like breast versus formula, and it ruffles feathers, It really does. But it was by design, to break the family, to break the mother's intuition, to break the mother's, I don't want to say desire, but like a mother's knowing that she knows best. And they did that. They did that. And that's why you have it today where these mothers are like, it's too much. It's too much. The Industrial Revolution is right after women's rights, was when they gave women the right to vote. And they also said, hey, you get to go to work. Amazing. And I'm all for that. I think that women should have their own money, um, and do what they want. However, I just think if you choose to be a mother, like you need to be there for your child. I don't want the state raising my kid at the end of the day. And
well,
that's
and then
such a,
you
go
have
ahead.
let's say you have the influence of the economy on that too, because at the same time, like you said, they give women rights, and then you kind of essentially take away their freedom and their connection to themselves and to the family by saying you have to go to work. And part of that
Mm-hmm.
started because they shipped all the men off to war. And so who's going to be left here in the country to take care of the businesses that are here and also to manufacture the things that the men need away at war? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so women went into the warehouses, they went into the workplace and all of that. And who has the kids? Well, the school system has the kids. And this is where we get to brainwash them and teach them whatever we want and give them the food right. Now the state gets to raise them. And who decides the state stuff? Let's just go all the way up to politics and people who don't know you or have your best interest. And they're also just trying to make a buck, probably most of the time.
Definitely.
They're protecting their own interests. And so, but it goes all the way down to like now you need a two-person income to maintain a household with a family. Like it's a lot more rare that one person can go to work while the other stays home. It's like lucky to be a stay-at-home mom. And I have to tell
Right.
you, like this morning, I actually cried some tears of gratitude just reflecting on like I've had 8 months of like maternity leave with my daughter. And I had left my corporate job right before I found out I was pregnant. So I was going, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to go to work. Like I was trying to go in all in on my business. And so I feel incredibly grateful that I've had all of this time with her and the ability to bond with her and things. And I'm just praying that I continue to grow that, to keep that standard. Because honestly, if we're talking about manifesting or anything like that, I am not available for anything less than to be her guide and be her person the way that I think most women want to. And we feel like like we were talking about before we started recording this podcast, we feel kind of like this pressure that we need to be successful in other ways. We need to have an identity in other ways. And we also can't survive unless I'm in the workplace and away from my
Mhm.
children. And that means they have to go in daycare and somewhere else, somebody else is taking care of them.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful thing, that you get to be here with her, truly.
Yeah, it really, really is. And I think that's part of why I'm so passionate about being like an unconventional mom, because we have to see things for what they are in order to break away from the expectations and the pressure of society and the people who are going to question how you're doing it differently, in order to return to our intuition and our knowing um, in our relationship with our child,
Hmm.
and not
Yeah.
just giving away our power and outsourcing everything. And this is a super sticky subject that I'm going to just poke the bear on for a second, but also goes for our vaccination schedule, right? Of we were just told this is what they need. And did you know that like when we were kids, so 30 years ago, there was about 22, up to like 22 vaccinations on the schedule.
Yeah.
Now there's like three times that amount.
Oh yeah.
So three
Oh yeah.
times. And you'd think like, well, wait, we're supposed to be healthier and cleaner and all of these things that influenced our ability to like fight disease or eradicate disease. Why do we need that three times more vaccinations then?
Hmm.
So not to go like down that rabbit hole, but it is about questioning what is being told to you and what is being prescribed to you,
Hmm.
your belief systems, your body, the food, the school system, the job system, capitalism, the news media, all the things that we are being fed and being taught. You're talking about being a student and being a learner and how we have to unlearn things. In order to do that, we have to be willing to question, and we have
Right. Well,
to,
that's the first step,
and to,
That's the first step, is becoming your own advocate. And
yes.
that's something that,
And the
go
word
ahead.
you used earlier was accountability. So it's
Hmm.
not just asking the question and being your own advocate, but be willing to take responsibility for the choices that you're making for yourself and for your kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that that feels like a lot of pressure probably to people because the society is functioning in survival mode in so many
Hmm.
ways. Our nervous systems are on alert, high alert. We're full of cortisol. But I think a big part of that, let's circle back a little bit, is the nutrition that we're getting.
Hmm.
That's from childhood. We're being disconnected from our bodies, and not just by food, but again by asking permission to go to the bathroom. So now I can't. My body's telling me something, and I have to ignore it. I can't, and being shoved down away from our intuition, even as kids, of like, we I I feel like our generation has broke away from some of this stuff, but maybe it's just the people and that I'm in circles with, right? Like I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, but the conversation that is more prominent to me now, I think, is like when a family member is like wants to hug you or something, and allowing your kid to say no, they don't want to, allow them to have body autonomy and boundaries.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. Because that was something we didn't have growing up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're making me sad. You're making the adult sad. Yeah.
yeah. Now
Teaching the
we're
child
responsible for other
accountability and building that self-efficacy from a young age. Child development works in stages, and not many people are aware of these stages. You'd think like mothers would, like, generally, but a lot of mothers don't. Pregnancy is just a very natural thing, and so I think a lot of women just like lean into that. Like, my body knows, beautiful, it does. This is going to be a breeze. It totally can be. Lean into it. However, I think there's some stuff that we should be concerning ourselves with regarding child development. Anyways, a child is pretty much formed psychosomatically into who they are as a person by 7.
It's
Take
like
that in. 7.
right?
That's
Probably.
like third grade. That's who they are. Their belief systems about themselves, their belief systems about the world, whether they feel safe or not, generally. So, like, just to speak from my experience, I did not feel safe at 7, up to 7. I knew the world was an unsafe place. I knew the world was full of dangers. I felt like I wasn't smart enough to be in the world. Um, you know, just in my experience, being a child, living my life, touching children in the world, experiencing how children learn and play and just how they exist in a school setting versus a play setting, and kind of playing around with unschooling and different homeschooling modalities. Children are not supposed to all be interested in the same thing. Children are not supposed to learn all of the same stuff. So my example is like I've never been math smart. I've honestly actually hated math my entire life. It's caused me great physical stress. I would cry at second grade. I was in like an advanced school in second grade, and my mom pulled me out because the packets were like this thick, like so much homework. Maybe that's a breeze for some kids. I was never a math kid. I like science. I like English. I like language arts. I like art. I like being outside. I love nature studies. Math, not so much.
I
And just based on that,
think so many people can relate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so just that piece right there, right? Giving every child the same standards, the same level of expectations, and then we're grading them on it. And as a teacher, flip that coin. I found myself getting frustrated at some students who couldn't get it. It felt like they weren't trying, right? They like couldn't focus, they couldn't sit still. They wanted to talk, they wanted to read, they wanted to do anything else. Well, I can't move on. We can't move on until you all finish this, right? I can't move on to the next thing. So it's like my three kids who completed everything within 10 minutes. They bawled out, you get more responsibility. Oh, Heather, since you finished, would you please help Timmy? That's unfair to my 3 students who just finished, right? It's really unfair to Timmy and the other students who aren't at the same pace and level for whatever reason, right? Academically, emotionally, interest
Okay.
wise, you
And the
know?
self-esteem, the beliefs, we're talking about beliefs about yourself that are built. When you
Mm-hmm.
have a peer who's zipped through it and then comes to teach you instead of the adult, the teacher in the room, what impact does that have on your self-esteem and your beliefs about yourself?
Yeah,
Like
it made me feel real dumb.
right, right. And it's like I understand there's good intentions in all of this, and there's only one teacher, maybe there's a teacher's aide in the room. So how much attention can you span out to these individual kids?
Right.
Right. That's
I'm
why you
one person, and the average number for Texas classrooms is 22, but it's often way more. It's way more. I'm one person. If you think that I can give if I can that I could differentiate instruction for 25 children, you're delusional. And
yeah.
every teacher knows that. So if every teacher knows the truth, but this is what every teacher is doing, it's like, where's the lie?
Well, because they're being
You know,
taught this is what you should be able to do. So every teacher is
correct.
feeling like they're falling short. They're failing their students. They're failing the system. And oh, I have the pressure to get these grades so that our school system gets money. So I still have a job. And so we have funding and like just
Mhm.
this whole swirl. It's all very intertwined in it. And then you're talking about children's behavior in the mix of it too. Oh, one person holding an entire room of children's energy, which is very high,
Mhm.
and then you add sugar into the mix and their irritability and not feeling good in their bodies and all their needs being met. I mean,
It's
no
an
wonder,
impossible job.
yeah. And teachers are burnt out by the first semester
Hmm.
every
And
year.
it's interesting because like things that really appealed to me in my mid 20s when I was in college, playing with children, being with children, getting on their level. I had emotional needs that were not met by teachers and other adults in my life. I wanted to be that person, right? And I think those are very altruistic, beautiful, real goals. But then you get in the classroom and it's like, this is impossible. Like literally, it's
Of it too doesn't help.
you cannot do it. You cannot do it at the level, at least, that I think is meaningful.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of wonderful teachers. This isn't a I think all teachers are bad and doing it wrong speech. Um, but like dressing up, the cute books, spending your own personal money to make the classroom a beautiful, inclusive learning environment, that all comes out of your pocket. The fuck?
Yeah.
Um,
Any
you
other
know,
business, by the way, you would like be able to expense if you're making
mhm,
the office conducive to learning or productivity,
mhm.
right? But yeah, in the classroom, it comes out of your pocket, which to me, I just goes back to that agenda of, having a burnout teacher leads to burnt out children and people who feel helpless and powerless and not capable, so that when they enter the workforce, they take what's available to them at minimum wage or whatever it may be and just continue in this cycle into adulthood and work until they're retired. And then you're retired and you're supposed to be able to go travel and live your life, or
I
whatever,
know.
like,
And you're too
and
old
you're
and you're too
sick.
tired. And it's such a lie that you can live off of $3,000 a month. I think that's the average Social Security payout. That's
Right.
laughable.
Which
That's
is
laughable.
so many people actually enter the military. It's not really like about this is a calling for me to go protect my land and country. No, it's really about
Right.
I'm going to need these benefits to retire with.
Yeah.
That's what I hear so many people say. And so, we breed soldiers through poverty
Hmm.
and lack of resources,
You know,
and then
and
provide.
yeah, the military encourages you to get married, which I think is a beautiful goal to have. I don't think that that's wrong, but like, the benefits are greater if you're married. So we've got a
The
slew
motives
of
are
20-year-olds. Like I could count on both hands how many people I know personally who got married in their early 20s who are now divorced, specifically in the military.
Oh, wait, and my grandparents' story, where they're like, oh, she dropped out of high school, or my great grandparents dropped out of high school at 17 to get married because he turned 18 and was enlisting and they needed to be married first.
Wow.
Right. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, just
It's
so that when she gets out, she had benefits and and did you know, this is such a side note, I don't want to get like distracted by it, but I thought it was fascinating that back in the day, so again, my grandpa's 80, so I guess 50, 60 years ago, um, the military check went to the wife. They gave it to the wife to cash to make sure that the family was fed and taken care of, because a lot of the soldiers would go drink on that money and squander it. And then
wow.
have families that were homeless or not fed or any of those things like that, which meant that now the man cannot show up for duty properly. So to make sure he showed up for duty, they made sure the family was taken care of because that wife's going to take care of him. And I was just like, the logic. And of course, I don't know when that changed, that, now it goes direct deposit into the man's account. I like don't know when that happened, but I thought it was very fascinating that the women came to pick up the
That's
checks.
wild.
Very based. Yeah.
That's wild.
But, and also though, the women didn't have rights still back then to like have their own money and have their own land and
Right.
vote.
But they're the ones who are responsible.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that was just mind blowing to me. But I think that actually, connects to teachers in the classroom being so responsible to hold it all together, and not just teachers, just women in our society in general,
Hmm.
having to hold so much, that we are the natural nurturers. We are the intuitive beings that can really check in on a deeper level. Not to say men don't have intuition, but
Sure.
they
But
are.
we are the vessels, the connectors.
Yes, very much so. We are the emotional, and that's why women are considered more emotional, because we are more connected to the energy of things, where a masculine body is more connected to the logic of things in the mind, and not as much as the body in the same
You know,
way.
and it's interesting because I agree with everything you just shared. So why do schools that are filled with only women? I've worked at every single school in my district. I've subbed at every single school. I've done long term and short term. I've done just days. So I've gotten a good feel and vibe of the environment, right? The community or lack thereof. So if women are these like nurturers, these natural connectors, why do these schools filled with just women feel so terrible? And I've been at schools where it's just women and it's wonderful, but like the ones that I've been at where there is no connection, it's every man for himself, it's a woman principal, and her vibes are just judgmental, hard, sharp. like, oh my gosh, just terrible. And it just felt so foreign to me. It felt so wrong. My whole body and my mind and my spirit were just genuinely so confused. I kind of kept waiting to meet somebody who felt grounded, who I could feel like, you know what, like give me your hand, like we're in this together. Like,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
wild to me. And I know that the students feel that. I know they do. It's just interesting, how women can be so disconnected and so hardened.
yes. I and that's bred in us from very early on, in going back to being disconnected from your body and being told your emotions are too much, or suppress all of that. I think that that translates. And you know I believe, from most women that I talk to who go to become an educator, like, love is their motive. Love children,
Hmm.
love teaching, want to have an impact, want to,
Hmm.
whatever, from their heart. And you get into this environment that is poison
Yeah.
from top to
What
bottom, all the different ways.
what
And I know,
happens when you have nothing left to give?
yeah,
Can you still give? The answer is no. Um, Teaching requires so much work outside of the classroom, which is wild to me because even in corporate America, like you plan during work. You you do the extra facilitating work for your main work at work. You have to take 100% of that at home. Now, you're supposed to get what's called a planning period. Often that gets taken away because they need you for a meeting. They need you to sub for someone else. Like, hey, Heather's out, Alex. I need you to come in during your planning. You have a parent teacher meeting, like whatever. There's always a reason why they take it away. You get a 20-minute lunch break. And that is wild to me. You have to literally sit there in silence and scarf your food down. And usually by lunchtime, I'm so overstimulated that sitting there in complete silence and I'm not thinking one thing. I'm just shoveling food into my mouth. And then usually I sit there for 5 minutes in total silence, prepping for the rest of my day.
it's intense.
At the end of the day, you have a duty. So you either have pickup line duty, so rain, 99-degree Texas heat, -2 degree, that dry winter we get. Doesn't matter what it is, you are outside with your walkie talkie, waving kids down, putting them in the car. Like, it's absolutely wild to me. When your day starts, when your day ends, it is non-stop and your day starts at 7:30. You're not done until 4:30, even though school is out at 3:15. So what does that mean for women who are married, who have children? So if you have children and you're an educator, that means you're not leaving your campus until 4:30, maybe even 5. You have to go pick up your children from whoever, wherever. Then you're home. Let's call it 5:30. Then you have to bust out dinner. Then you have to help with homework. Then you have to clean dinner. You know what I'm saying? All of your
Mhm.
your your personal evening routine plans. And I'm not even mentioning um, quality time with your child because that's non-existent because
All
they
of
have
this.
homework. They've got stuff to do that you have to facilitate as mom. So then once mom has wrapped it up with kids, right? Picked up the kitchen, put them to bed, bath time, wherever you are on your schedule, then it's time for you to be a person. There is no time. There is no time. And that right there is something I feel so deeply, viscerally passionate about. And I feel like, please don't judge me because again, that's the norm. But I completely disagree with it. It is so fucking wrong. And that's why these teachers, most of them, there are some fit, healthy, balanced teachers, not all, but most. If you look at a teacher who's been doing it for 5 years, is she healthy? No, she's overweight. And whether she's obese or not, on the spectrum, right? Just on the spectrum, she's not healthy. She's burned out. Her skin is lackluster. She's gained weight. She's lost muscle mass. She's a little more sad than she was 5 years ago. It's because there is nothing left for her. There is no time in this career to benefit you. It's 100% for the cause. What kind of educator, what kind of lover, what kind of mother, what kind of independent healer am I if 100% of me goes externally? You die. And that's why they end up, drinking soda as their sweet treat every day. They go, I had a
Finding
great day today. I'm going to get canes. It's like, yeah, deep fried in seed oils. Like, it's
finding
so
for
disheartening to
anything
me.
that
And,
they
and, and
can.
that's the reward for teachers. Instead of a raise, it's a pizza party. It's shitty cookies from Jimmy John's. It's, and you may call me a food snob. I just think that I know the truth. And this makes me really unpopular to work with in public education because a lot of those teachers like that shit. Oh, they got us the good sandwiches. Yeah, well, did you know that all sandwiches in North and like all of them, Subway, Papa John, that's pizza, whatever they are, Jimmy John's,
Panera.
they correct. They all have plastic in that bread. Look it up. Look at the ingredients. Bread is 3 ingredients, not 15. It's not food, but that's the reward. Thank you for bending over backwards and giving us your soul. Here's some shitty pizza. Or they walk around with like donuts and chocolate milk and coffee, or they give you little like, we appreciate you working here. It's like a pun with the gum. Like you're one in a million. Here's a one in a million candy or whatever. That
Yeah.
was always such a slap in the face. How about a raise? How about a gift card to Amazon? How about 25 bucks in gas? How about Fridays off? I don't know.
Remember the classroom things that I've paid for here, or the food that I had to bring in for the kids who don't have parents that can send snacks with them and think,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I don't, for good healthy stuff, not for me to go get the cheap stuff because that's all that I can
Hmm.
afford on a teacher's salary to make sure that
Exactly. Well, it's all that they can afford and it's the norm. I have kids who go through the cafeteria line and they eat the pizza, they might nibble at the corn dog, but they want the garbage because they're chemically addicted to it. And it's not their fault. It would happen to rats. It would happen to me. It would happen to anybody who consumes this stuff. You eat Cheez-Its, it releases opioid receptors in the brain. We are chemically addicted to this ultra processed food. And again, it was by design. And so I have children who want to go dig in the snack box. And it's like, well, their teacher has like a mini fridge and she'll collect all the apples that the babies don't eat from lunch because nobody wants their apple. So she collects them. Cool. So that's snack. Nobody wants that. They all want to go dig in the Cheez-Its box.
hmm
And that's very sad to me. When you eat that stuff, it doesn't register to your body that you're full. That's why snacks has been such a detriment truly to like society and health as a whole because what a snack really is real food. It could be like jerky and some pear. It could be apple and like real peanut butter. So that means real peanuts, sugar, no oil. Like it's just wild to me like what mothers, what teachers, what society has deemed as like this is what I feed my child. There's a
Well, and
reason they put Mickey Mouse and Disney princesses and what's popular, Paw Patrol, like whatever, on like these images on this garbage. There's a reason. It's to give your child a visual association. It's so your child tells you, the adult, what they want.
the adult is so burnt out that I don't have the energy to argue with you. I don't have the
Yeah.
energy boundaries up for you, right? Like I want to, and I have friends who have kids around this age, like pre-K to first grade, and they've talked about how at the end of the day, they go pick their kid up. It's about 4:30 when they get home. Kid needs to wind down. They've been in a classroom setting all day. That can take 30 minutes, maybe. So it's about 5 o'clock. All right, well, then we have homework, like you talked about. So we've got to do that. Then you've got to get dinner ready. Then you've got to start bedtime routine, right? You've got to do all of these things. And all the parent wants to do is bond and spend some good quality time with their child. Also, they want to unwind from their own job too, right? They're
Hmm.
exhausted. And
Yeah,
so
they're
it's
a person.
right. And so they don't want to fight with their kids. They don't want to discipline their kids. Not
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of a separate topic, but they don't want to fight with them about what to eat, what not to eat. And you've been getting this all day while you're at school, and this is what your peers have, and this is what the commercials say that
Yeah,
you should.
it's too hard to fight the conglomerate. So what's the solution?
You
You
give in.
remove yourself. You get off the Ferris wheel.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's the end piece that like you can't tell somebody who's just learning about this. That's too much.
Right.
That's like for someone who's unlearned, who's educated themselves on new paths, new ways, they're using new modalities. They're closer to the end. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You
Yes.
can't shine the spotlight and give them all of it at once.
Well,
I saw a TikTok the other day that a couple of people who I know who have children, these are mothers who liked it. And this TikTok was like, this is why I feed my kids McDonald's every day. She like showed a bundle of organic bananas and how her kids just destroyed them. Like didn't even really eat them, just like destroyed them. And I don't really understand. That's why you feed your child poison. And people don't like that.
because real food's
People,
messy,
I don't know.
right? Like,
It's because it's work. It's too much work. You have to fight the conglomerate. You have to fight their peers. You have to fight what their teachers give them. You have to fight what you see in the aisles of the grocery store. Fun fact, all the real food in a grocery store is the perimeter. All the fake food, the ultra processed, it's not food. It's in the center.
yeah. So
Yeah,
just
it's wild.
there's a tip number one if people are like, how can I?
Yeah,
'Cause that's
yeah,
something I
it's too
definitely,
hard. Where do I start? Stick
yeah,
to the perimeter.
right, yeah.
If
Because
it
that's
goes
something I
bad,
definitely
it's
talk
food.
about is when you feel helpless or burnt out, or I have to close my eyes to this because I just don't even have the capacity to make change.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you can change? What are those baby steps that will allow you to get closer to that unlearning spot, right? To be removing yourself from the hamster wheel. I think I personally feel my journey started with food. That's where mine started. When I like kind of started to awaken, it was like I feel like shit every time I eat this. I am tired and need a nap every time I eat this meal. Food's supposed to fuel me. That's not the way, right? I was like, so that was something that I looked at, and it began with food. And then I was able to actually have the capacity because I had the felt sensation in my body and the energy for more and more and more. Is that what I mean?
I would
As
agree. I would agree. I think for people who are tapped in and self-aware, it comes, excuse me, a little more naturally because as a child, I had those same thoughts, truly. I would eat pizza and I knew right away. I knew right away. I'm super incredibly sensitive to dairy. So when I would have pizza as a child, I would get stuffy immediately. My tonsils would swell immediately. I would get tired and feel super lethargic, and I'd be like, "This ain't right,"
yeah.
And I had people. I would share that information, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I don't think you're allergic," and I'd be like, "Oh, I think I'm allergic." It's not. It's more than like it's giving me a stomach ache and making me have diarrhea. It's more than that. It's coming out in my skin. It's making me itchy. And that's how these symptoms start. It's like you just need to be tapped in enough to your own body to pay attention and listen. The body will tell you, but are you receptive to hear?
Yeah.
And because of the chronic disassociation that many people have, for all of the real reasons, right? Like for abuse and trauma and horrific things that happen to us that have taught us to turn off our ability to hear, to turn off our intuition. You're being judgmental, Actually, no, I'm not, Susan.
Mhm.
Intuition is what keeps you safe. It's what lets you know what? Maybe that homeless guy, maybe he is struggling, but maybe he's a drug addict. Maybe I shouldn't stop at this gas station, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, that behavior is unsafe, whatever it is. Like I don't need to be around that person. It's our ability to listen, to hear, and to use our judgment to be accountable for ourselves. And the unlearning is such a major piece of that because even if you have the intuition, even if like your ears are open, you're listening to your body, you're starting to make decisions like, you know what, this doesn't feel good, this does, I'm going to do more of this, less of that. The secular society is so big, is so loud. So my best advice to anyone who's starting this journey is to unplug. Truly, it's to focus on detoxing, which is a part of unlearning in the physical realm, right? When we sweat, when we release, we're letting go of. We're creating the vacuum for something new. So my best advice is to move your body, detox, and unplug from secular society. What does that look like? It looks like getting off social media for a while. Truly, it's not letting other people's thoughts and opinions bombard you. Now, if you want to keep social media and like explore and play when you feel like it, beautiful, but it's boundaries, right? It's not listening to secular music. Take a break. Listen to nothing. Go be in nature. Listen to the birds. Listen to music from the 60s and 70s and 80s that isn't detrimental to our health and our DNA. And then the biggest one is if you have kids, it's surround yourself with people who you want to be like. Find a mother who's doing it so you can have physical proof. She's doing it. I'm witnessing it. I can do it too. And I may not know everything, and neither does she, but she knows more than me. And look at her doing it. And that is like step by step of how you can let go of who you were, walk into who you want to be. And then just to take it a step further is keep your children out of public education. I think it's a beautiful thing, public education on some ends. I really do. I think like it's free, it's available to everyone. I think everyone deserves a right to have a free, appropriate education. Now, you as the parent get to decide what's appropriate. So I think that some kids who literally have nothing, I think public school is better than nothing. I do. But I think if you have the space and the awareness and like the option to keep your child away from secular society, I would absolutely encourage that you do that. They are formed by 7. You can't undo it. Like parents are like, oh man, all these issues at 10, 11, 12. It's like, yeah, I'm so sorry, baby. Like it's done. People can change. It's not what I'm getting at, but like the root of who they are, this is the stuff that like adults grow up and they have to do all this unlearning, right? Where's the root? It's like all the stuff that happened before you were 7. So if you keep your children, number one, if you keep them children, right? And putting them in public school, it opens them up to developmentally inappropriate things, and it's only getting worse with technology. And when I have this conversation, parents love to be like, oh, well, you're just not going to let your kid have access. It's like, pump the brakes. They will be literate in technology, but I'm not giving them a cell phone. I'm not giving them YouTube, and I'm not giving them unrestricted access. That's the big one. You cannot control what your child has access to when you send them off for 12 hours a day. You just don't. And that's a lie parents tell themselves. That's the illusion of control. You have no control. You are sending them off.
And I want to add to that too, actually, because you as a parent get to decide what those restrictions are. You don't give that away to, for example, Google's kid settings or YouTube's kid settings. They're then deciding what's appropriate, not you. So are you trusting those settings and
Right.
just walking away? Because
Right.
that is something that it may not be blatantly inappropriate, but
Oh,
I've
but
seen,
it is.
right, I
I,
see
w- I
things.
would I would argue that it is. It was by design.
Oh, well,
We
yes.
don't have to go. We don't have to go into it in this conversation, but
No, yeah. Yeah.
there's
But I
there's
want to encourage,
inappropriate art and language and innuendos in all of
and
animation,
that's exactly
children's shows. I mean, like even as adults, things are coming to light 20 years later, right? So like just an example that all that, remember Amanda Bynes and Drake Bell and all of the sexual inappropriateness that was happening, all this abuse that was happening on this child show. And I had a friend message me and was like, have you seen this? It's wild. And I said, wait till you find out that it's all of them, that it's Disney, that it's all of them. Oh, are you not going to let your kid watch anything fun? It's like your idea of what fun is. Like take stock into that. That also translates to food. It's like, oh, you're just not going to let them have anything. Well, that's what summer's about. Summer's about popsicles. Summer's about, I don't even know, like in this moment, like I'm just going to focus on popsicles, but it's like, just because that's what you had and like you associate that with a fun summer doesn't mean my child has to. Their idea of like what constitutes a beautiful weekend, traditions with mom, a fun summer, what we do during the holidays is completely and entirely up to you as the parent. You get to decide, what traditions are you upholding? What traditions are you creating?
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
because it's always been done that way doesn't mean that it's right, appropriate, or that you have to continue it.
right. Well, and to be healthy doesn't mean there's no fun. I don't know where where that got extracted, where it's like, oh, all
Right,
the things that are good for you are not fun. Like who said
right,
that? Is it because there's
right,
no boundaries? Is that why
right.
I
And
just
then
want to
there's
run amok?
this rhetoric about you're going to breed eating disorders. You're going to breed eating disorders by like being so fear-based. It's like, that's loaded. Flip that. Check where you are with that. First of all, I'm not breeding eating disorders by telling the truth. Look
And
at it
it's not
objectively.
I'm doing
Like
it
facts don't care about your feelings.
right.
So how
Yeah.
you feel about this is irrelevant. Look at the facts, right? What does sourdough consist of? 3 ingredients. What's Wonder Bread consisted of? 16 ingredients. I'm not breeding an eating disorder by sharing information with my child. Cancer is 90% environmental. Yes, some people may have a genetic disposition, but 90% of it, whether you get some type of disease, it's all environmental. What does that mean? It's the physical environment that you're in, right? Are you detoxing? Are you stressed constantly? Are you suppressing your emotions? Are you not sharing from your heart, your throat? And are you eating poison? And a lot of society has been, well, they lied to us. They lied to us. And that's a big pill to swallow. That's a big one to like really sit with and come out the other end and not be bitter about it. I think a lot of people hear this information and it's like their whole body rejects it. Their whole body, like full body stop. Like, I'm not going to not have fun. It's like, okay, well, if your idea of fun is chicken fried in seed oils and red dye 40, like we've got different definitions of fun. You know, you can make popsicles that are bomb.
Yeah. From real
You can
food.
eat real butter. Not me because, it hates me. I wish I could. Instead of vegan butter that, oh, it's so gross. Like vegan butter has the same ingredients as, those butters that come in the tubs.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same ingredients. That what is it like? Not Betty Crocker. It's like the brown tub. Anyways, it's the same ingredients, but the vegan butter is like $7. Then the big one's like $5. I just think it's hilarious. Like the vegan movement got it
Yeah.
so wrong.
Yeah. It has, I think that there were good intentions in that too, just like there is in so many things. And then those undertones come into it to continue the unhealthy patterns, right? So like
Yeah.
we're choosing to be more plant-based, they're choosing more raw, real food. And then the industry has to come in and say, we'll create that for you with a bunch of shit, right? And we'll put
Mm-hmm.
the vegan label on it
Mm-hmm.
because it is plant-based, because it is these things. And so they want to continue the unhealthy cycle because that is
Everything is for purchase. Like it is to keep us addicted and sick, right? Because the food industry works in conglomeration with the medical industry. It's this circular
so it's like
prison, right?
manipulating, taking advantage of people who had healthy intentions, but are
Hmm.
still unaware of like reading labels
Sure,
truly
sure.
means, you know?
And also I just want to clarify, I think that factoring farming is absolutely horrific. I've seen the videos, I've read the articles. It it shocked me so deeply. It made me so sick that I stopped eating meat for a long time. And that's just not conducive to my body. So more power to you. if, you live island style and you're doing raw vegan, like if you're really just doing seeds and honey and nuts. I don't know if honey is technically vegan, but like melons, I see a couple of those raw vegans on TikTok. And hey, if that rocks for your body and you feel strong, more power to you. But I think most vegans have such a lack of understanding of like, this isn't food, it's petroleum based chemicals, and it's
Right.
giving you cancer. Truly,
Right.
truly. Like the solution isn't for to be vegan. The solution really is more regulations on factory farming. It's to give the power back to small farmers. It's to take the power away from the federal government. It's all by design. That's why Bill Gates is the number one landowner in, it's not Texas, is it like North Dakota? It's
Something.
wild. It's wild, but it's by design, you know? The same people who are promoting this toxic shit are the same people who are eating farm raised, grass fed, 100% Angus beef. They
And
get the real deal. They want us eating bugs.
yes,
They've now put cockroach grinds. I don't know what to call it, but
that's in the food dye, right? Like,
it's in micas, which is in makeup. It's like beetle, it's like where Egyptian communities would get that beautiful neon green color. But I'm talking about actual cockroaches that's in certain foods now. You need to be really careful with processed food. You need to be reading everything. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie called Snowpiercer.
mm-mm.
I would highly recommend it just for anybody on the journey. It's just a really great metaphor. It's an interesting film. So it's like apocalyptic world where the entire world has like a massive snowstorm all the time. So everything is frozen and it's been frozen for however many years. Now there's this train that literally cycles the earth that everybody on the earth is on. It's like whoever's left is on this train. And the way they stay alive is because they keep moving. Now there's like 12 cars to this train, and our story starts at the end, right? And we don't know what's happening. Everyone's living in it's extreme poverty. They're very thin. They're dying, and they get passed out these like gelatin bars. It's like they call them like nutrition bars. It's what they get to consume. So everyone when they bring the food down from the first track, second track eats, third track eats, then fourth, then fifth, then sixth. So when it makes its way down to the 12th, it's like whatever's left. And our story is basically this man is like, there has to be more than this. I can't keep living like this. So he fights his way to the front. And we find out that there's like extreme wealth, that these people have access to clean water. They're bathing regularly. Their women aren't dying from childbirth. They get to eat real food. And then he finds out what's in the gelatin bricks, and it's bugs. They're feeding these people literal bugs. And it's such a scary metaphor for what is
Real. It's real.
happening in the state of the world right now. It's predictive programming. They show us what they're doing, and by showing it to us, we as a collective visually see it, and that's the acceptance. That's like, oh, that's okay. you know you got to be really mindful. And once you learn about the true corruption of the state, that's what broke me. And that was the starting point for me. Like I had awareness about my body, and I had awareness because my mother was chronically ill her whole life. So like it was her journey as well. I learned a lot from her, trial and error. Then the older I got, the more I started learning about different things. This is for a different conversation, but when you break through the iceberg of the true corruption of the state, and you find out what they're suppressing, everything else comes together. And it makes so much sense. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense because I know this to be true. That makes sense because this is true.
Yes. I think that's why, when I have these conversations, and not just about education or kids, but just my belief system, my lifestyle, it always kind of comes back to this like agenda, which sure, it sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Well, it's not a theory because it's
Not a
been
theory,
proven
right?
true. And the people who
Yeah.
call it a theory are the ones who don't read.
Right, right. And that's what exactly what I tell people. And I'm like, it's not just theories though. It sounds like it because that's what you're being told, that it's like,
That's
oh, crazy,
propaganda.
crazy
The
ideas.
term conspiracy theory was created by the CIA to discredit truths.
Thank you
It
so
was
much.
literally created. So when you use that language, you are a walking billboard for the government. I mean, like you've all seen Hunger Games. That might be like something that more people relate to. It's like you are a walking billboard for the Capitol. They're not doing this. They care about us. You're a conspiracy theorist. They
Right.
would never.
Yeah.
Not only would they and do they continue to.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
it
plus,
takes a very brave person
I
to
agree.
question society and to break out. I've lost friends, truly. I had a friend who was her father worked for Pfizer, so she was really indoctrinated like to the other end of the spectrum. And I had about as all as I could take of her and that friendship. It got to a contingent point where it was like, I have no interest in arguing with you. I have no interest in like proving to you something you do not want to believe.
Mhm.
You know, she just was full right wing, um, Rockefeller medicine all the way. Food has nothing to do with how you feel. Food has nothing to do with the diseases that you manifest in your body. Um, Everything in moderation. That's something that I really hate. Lots of people love to say that. It's like, no, a little bit of meth in moderation. No, a little bit of your husband beating you. No, a little bit of you ignoring your child. No, no. Like, again, though, to be fully like to fully believe and to fully like separate from secular society takes a very brave person. You'll lose people,
Yeah.
but you'll gain the right people. I mean, hopefully, right?
What, well, and that's a really what it comes down to is like, what do you really value? Like, and checking in with that can be a hard place to swallow, of like, this is
Yeah,
actually valuable for me. And that means that I have to uphold, if I have integrity and I'm going to have accountability, then I have to uphold this. And
or
to
be
do that,
miserable.
right, or yeah, or be miserable and continue to suppress and shove down who I really am, what's really true for me. And to me, I mean, that's suicide while you're still living. You
I
know,
agree.
that's to induce your own suffering. It's harder to me personally when my eyes were opened. It was harder to try to close them than
You
it was
can't
to,
unsee.
yeah, you can't
You
unsee.
can't unring a bell.
All I can do then is be brave to say, this is the path for me. This is what I'm choosing. And I don't even need to argue with people. Like, there are choices that I make for myself. There are choices I make for my daughter that lots of people, including my family, question. Like, I'll use one just quick example as like co-sleeping. I know that there is a lot of research out there that shows it can be very dangerous. There are things hidden underneath that research that's not being revealed, such as a lot of that research shows women that are under the influence of pain medications and depression medications or drinking and things like that. They don't
Yeah,
tell you that in those studies, that there are other influencing factors to why co-sleeping was dangerous.
right.
Instead, they want you to think that. So you're disconnected from your baby, which means
Hmm.
that you disconnect from your own body because you feel your intuition and things telling you how to mother. And you're saying, no, this isn't safe. This isn't safe. So you stop
Hmm.
trusting yourself. So the agenda goes really deep, even there. But these are things
Absolutely.
I've had to defend with my family, to the point where I say, I'm not going to argue with you. This is the way I'm going to do it. This is
Yeah,
it. And you can either hear where I'm coming from if you're open to it, or we can just say, we don't agree. You would do it differently. That's fine.
yeah,
That's that, right? And
yeah.
and drawing those boundaries it's a practice. I think that I come across a lot of people who don't know how to set boundaries to communicate, to express themselves authentically. And so either they're hiding the things that they're doing because I don't want anybody to argue with me or call me out on it, or like we said, you just go with the flow of the secular stuff because you don't want the resistance that's going to come externally to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a rule of thumb personally that I will die on this hill of that from experience. I learned if I feel something that's possibly my intuition, because sometimes we question, right? Like, is that an intuition? Is that, or is that real? You know what I mean? And it can be
Mm-hmm.
simple things as far as like the little voice that tells you to grab your umbrella before you leave the house because it's going to rain, right? And you're like, why would I do that? It's sunny outside. And then you go and then it rains and you're like, oh my God, intuitively I knew it was going to rain and I
I
should have
knew.
followed that, right? So it can be as simple as that, right? Little example. I would rather, even if I'm not sure if it's my intuition, I would rather follow that breadcrumb than go against it and be wrong. I would rather be wrong following what I think is my intuition than be wrong by abandoning my intuition.
Yeah.
And that is just like I said, that's my rule of thumb. So in a
That's a
practice,
really beautiful practice.
thank you. It was again something learned through experience because I was like, damn it, I keep doing this. And it is
Yeah.
self-abandonment. It
Yeah.
is.
Same. Same.
And eventually I was like, you know what? What happens when I follow it and it's wrong? Actually, less crazy shit than when it's right and I didn't follow it. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I would rather take the umbrella and not need it than I didn't take it and I knew inside that I should have,
Yeah.
you know. So I think that's something too that anyone on this path who's kind of awakening and ready to unlearn is tapping into that intuition and not being afraid to follow it, even if it's potentially like nothing.
Yeah. I want to add to that. I think a big one too for people on the path in the beginning, I would recommend that you really, really, really get honest with yourself because so many of us lie to ourselves. Now, I'm not a perfect person. I don't always practice this because I've even caught myself in something recently where it's like, yeah, you knew better, but I was lying to myself. I can control it. I can manage my expectations. I can control this situation. It's like, girl, you're lying to yourself and you knew that because it always blows up in your face. And as an example, I have my sister came to me recently and was like, I don't think that I can be so and so's friend anymore. And I said, tell me why. She said, well, her partner is not great for her and she's real unhappy and all they do is drink and fight. Well, I'm tired of her complaining to me because when I say something of value, like, well, maybe he's not your person, right? She gets offended, she gets huffy and like doesn't want to hang out anymore. And she said, does she just want me to lie to her? And I said, yes, Andy. I was so proud of her. I was like, congratulations, you've just upgraded. Congratulations. Now you no longer have anyone around you that
Yeah.
lies to themselves because you're not lying to yourself. That's that whole misery likes company.
Mm-hmm.
People who want to stay in the self wallowing, people who want to stay in situations because they're not being honest with themselves about how they either feel, what they need, what they deserve, whatever. And they stay in it and it keeps you stuck and it keeps you miserable and it impedes your ability to grow.
Yeah. There's
And
this
that's a big one.
huge, huge. And sometimes we continue to lie to ourselves because we want to belong, that
Yeah.
belong.
Oh, that's such a big one. Yeah. That was me in teaching. God, I wanted to belong. I really did. I wanted to make my mama proud. I wanted to like show up in the world like I'm worthy. Look at me in my real job. I work Monday through Friday, just like everybody else. I'm a big girl. I'm a part of this world. Like I had to go through so many layers. Like I'm not joking. It took me 3 years to figure this out because I kept subbing. I was like, well, I don't know. I can't give it up yet. I don't have anything else coming in. I don't disagree with all of this, but like I'm here. And I spent 3 years in college to get here. I put all my eggs in one basket and I hadn't even taken my state exams, which is why I'm not certified to teach in the state of Texas. But I did 99.9% of it. And I got to the end. I climbed the mountain and said, I don't want this.
God, and that's so brave and so powerful. And to me, I mean, it's such a bigger accomplishment than taking a test, to be able to get to that point and say, this isn't what I want, and I'll turn around and I'll go a different way instead
Yeah.
of checking the box that everybody else thinks that I need to check on this journey. This journey is mine, and the destination I'm getting to isn't there. That's not
Yeah.
it.
And I had so many people tell me, like, what about, different types of school? What about private? What about charter? What about Montessori? And it's like, yeah, I think I'd be a great Montessori teacher. I think I'd be an even better unschooling teacher. I'd be great for summer activities with kids. I get them for like a couple hours for 2 weeks. Yeah, we'd learn some stuff and we'd have fun while we're doing it. I just
Yeah.
won't answer. I won't answer I won't answer to my state. I won't answer to the federal government. And I won't answer to dipshit parents. Sorry. You
But
don't
yeah,
you don't do your job, but you're expecting me to literally parent 25 children, 23 children. Like, I'll do the best I can, but it's like nobody's getting what they need. I'm not getting what I need. And like the principals, I just want to touch on this for 1 second. Like, to be a principal, you have to have 2 years in the classroom. So most people start out in their early 20s, early 30s. Then you have to go get your master's in education. So that's 3 more years. So by the time you've gone through your additional schooling, you've taken the testing, you get the job, you've been out of the classroom 6, 7 years, and you're making the rules for everyone else. I have not met a principal in my 3 years who was hands on. I have not met a principal who really cared about their teachers. I have met principals who were nice and like more caring than others, but like when it comes down to it, like they're going to protect their jobs. They're not here for you. They're here for the parents, which is wild to me.
it's such a
Like
political
this,
environment.
yes, this whole system is so political, and it's like we're not even teaching these children. Like, these are the children who are going to grow up to like interact in this world, and I don't know, all the adults are just so burnt out from like their lack of attention, their lack of knowledge, their lack of awareness. And it's like we're just going to send our kids down the same pipeline. It's what we got, it's what they get.
Yeah.
Tough shit, Timmy. Like,
Yeah.
that's
And
not
that's
that's not that's not the world I want to live in. So I've removed myself,
that's
you
where
know?
I think as parents or potential, future parents, where we get to be empowered by unlearning our own programming, belief systems, behavior, and then introducing something new to our children as they are the builders of the new world. We're the stewards. We're stewarding the next generation to build the new world. It
Hmm.
probably won't be here in the time that we're alive, right? But I believe it is our responsibility to steward them towards that as we are breaking the mold of what was built to indoctrinate us into the suffering, into the disease and general like unfulfillment.
Yeah, but you have to break out
Yes, you have to break out
to
of it.
facilitate that new world.
And it
Yeah,
starts it starts with
you
your own
know,
honesty. It starts with tapping into your own intuition and then going back to that belonging wound. I believe in you having faith that when I leave this circle or get kicked out of it, whatever, I'm voted off the secular island, that there is a tribe for me. And they will be attracted to me. I will be attracted into their space, or I will meet them and be met by them as I actually embody this version of myself that upholds the integrity of what I know to be true and feel is like right for me and my family. Right.
yeah.
And so like, when I started questioning all the things and was like, this is crazy. There's an agenda here, right? I had people who really were like, Heather, that's wild. That's conspiracy theories, right? All of that. And now I've met people such as like you who were like, no, I see this same truth. And so there was like a period of time when I didn't belong anywhere. And it does feel like I don't have any support. I don't really have any friends, or like maybe this isn't as fun, depending on your definition, right? Like,
Or easy.
yeah, it was
It's
hard.
not.
Yeah, it was hard. But thank God that I continued to navigate that, to traverse that empty space of not belonging anywhere, because now where I belong feels more aligned with who I am,
Yes.
the truth within me, and the life that I want to have. I see
Yes.
people that I left behind, if you will, still living in that matrix, in that
Hmm.
whole system, and they're unhealthy, they're unhappy. And I'm like, come join, come over here. And they're just not ready to let it go. They're not ready to see that. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's their journey, right? But it's so refreshing to me to be on, to have made it to this side and see there's a whole community here of people who are like-minded, who support you, who want to continue to learn with you, who will hold themselves accountable and be honest, like we're talking about. There's It was really hard to be around people. I mean, this even goes back to your family system, around people who would not take accountability for their behavior. How can I be in relationship with you? How
You
can I set
can't.
boundaries with you when you won't even adhere to them, right? You
You
can't
can't.
my life. I have to leave you behind.
Hmm.
And it's okay because there is a soul tribe on the other side for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is so true. And we're in a place now with technology that like more information is more available than it ever has been before. So I feel the duality of things. I feel like this is insane that I have this much awareness about the truth of the corruption of the world. And I also have access to healing modalities, real connection, real food, like all of the things. I have more connection and more accessibility to find these people, these things, these truths than ever before.
Yeah.
And so I have a tough love kind of mentality for a lot of things. So based on that, I just feel like it really is people's responsibility to use this information,
Yeah.
like it's out there and it's more accessible than it ever has been before. It really is your responsibility to seek this information out,
Be
to find what you're looking for. It's wild that they just did such a fabulous job at deconstructing the family unit and deconstructing the individual's ability to think critically and have self-efficacy. Self-efficacy means you know that you can do something. It's like when you toss a kid a football and you say, throw it to me. Well, I don't know how. Just throw it. Just throw it. Do they think they can do it? And so they've done such a beautiful job of dismantling that. So now we have adults who can't think for themselves, truly. And that's why they take things at face value. That's why we like our grandparents' generation, they watch the news. They literally watch the news and they think that that's where they're getting the truth about the world.
Yeah. It's so important, I think, especially in this time and in the world, to be resourceful on your own, to not be reliant on the system that would love to keep you
Mhm.
a consumer, that would love to keep you suppressed and unexpressed.
And broken and
Yeah.
separate from God and separate from support and separate from life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful to find people who are on the journey of self-discovery and awareness and of truth and of light. It makes it much more bearable to be in this matrix world because I have it completely unplugged. I'm not completely self-sufficient and there we have to interact with this matrix world at some level, whether you understand, the energetics of money or not, we still use money. Does that make sense? We
Oh,
have to
man.
interact at some level. And so having the awareness to understand the truth and to participate without being engulfed is also like learning a learning curve.
Yeah. There's so many layers to
Yeah.
it. So many layers. And like you said, it can be a quick dark night of the soul when you're exposed to it, and dark night of the soul just could be like your spiritual awakening, being like, everything that I've been taught has been a lie. What can I believe? You kind of go into this
Like a
disorder.
psychosis.
It is
I mean,
psycho.
like it fucked me up.
Yeah.
It destroyed me. When
It's
I learned about
like, what
when
can
I
I believe?
what
What is anything anymore? Who
mhm.
am I?
Yeah. Who am I in this world of lies?
Yeah.
Who can I talk to? Who can I reach out to? And that can be very disheartening for some people. It was very disheartening for me. My mother had awareness, which is how I even had the step into this. She had the awareness. But the older she got, the older I got, the harder it was for her to learn new things and accept new horrific truths about the world. But once I started finding, I couldn't stop looking. And now that I know what is real, I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had people too be like, you're focusing on the negatives and it's just too much and I can't think about this stuff and I'm only one person. And it's like, I hear you and you're in a different place in this journey than I am. My intention is never to like look at this and be afraid. It's like another penny in the bucket.
Right.
It's another piece of the truth. And I can respect someone's capacity. There have been times when I've been at max capacity and it's like I can take no more.
Mhm.
I cannot hear anymore, about the horrificness of like, the sex trafficking
Oh,
rings that connect all of North America.
all of the true crime shows that are out there, like all of that, just knowing that it exists makes it, yeah, it can make it such a scary place. It is a scary place, but that's even more why it's important for us to be connected to our intuition, to be connected
Facts.
to ourselves, and then also to connect to each other and community, people who
You
know
got
the
it.
truth,
You
and you're
got it.
able to protect each
You
other.
got it. They destroyed the community. I hear all the time in different platforms from different types of people, parents and not. I hear this all the time. What happened to the community? What happened to it? It was by design.
Yes, yes,
They break the connection from source. So whether you believe in God or not, they break the connection between you and the divine, whatever that is to you.
yes,
And a part of that is like the breaking of the intuition, because when you sever yourself from God, you sever yourself from truth, from love, and your ability to choose what's right for you, like in the highest good, truly. And
yes.
what happens when we have all of these individual people making decisions that don't benefit them? The community's broken, right? We don't trust our babies to hang out with cousins anymore. We don't trust, the neighbors to not whatever, right? The community is broken. The community is lost. And we're at a pivotal place in society right now because of the access to technology. What the access to technology is the access of information, right? The more information we have, the more connected we can be. It
Yes.
really is up to us to have accountability and to share truth with each other and to build the communities that we want. Back to homeschooling, create the community that you want.
And it's possible. I can hear already anyone like listening to this going, how is that possible for me? We have to work. How can I homeschool my babies? How can I afford private schooling or some, an alternative option? And
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to start with where you are in any process. And so it's start with being healthy. If you can't take your kids out of the public school, if you can't homeschool them, start with being healthy so that they can connect to their bodies. You're connected to yours. And I promise you that things will start to align and manifest so that whatever your heart does desire becomes more possible and accessible to you. And
Yes.
and moving from a love-based place and not a fear-based place, fear is the vibration that has been implanted into our system that has gotten us here.
Mm-hmm.
Scarcity, lack, um,
You can't
just
do this on your own.
yes, yes. And oh, we need police because it's such a dangerous world and all of these things. And a lot of the dangers that are out there are implemented by this agenda through
Mm-hmm.
poverty, through sickness, through the breakdown of the home, etc. Like you said, education system has a pipeline to the prison system.
Yeah.
This
Fun fact, police protect businesses, not people. I'll say that again. Police protect businesses, not people.
Yeah. And so strengthening your connection to yourself, to your body, to your inner knowing is going to allow you to get on the path to go there. Not outsourcing and trusting the things outside of you more than you do your own.
Yeah.
And to me, that's always a risk that I'm willing to take. I might be wrong, and that's okay. I'm going to try this because intuitively that's where I feel led. And when I
Yeah.
get there, even if it is the wrong step, perhaps it's the detour that I need to get to the place that I'm going. Right? Maybe I need to learn something that's over here, like healing and growing and learning and evolving is not linear. So I always love to think of I didn't go the wrong way. I was sent on this detour as a side quest to get
Side
something
quest.
to get something that
Yeah.
I need for the bigger mission of my life, which is just, whatever's in my heart's desires. Not everybody has the same mission or purpose. Like we're all here for something unique and it's all a drop in the ocean. But it's also very, very important because the butterfly effect that how I flap my wings has an impact on my community and the people around me, or even just my own home and children.
That's beautiful.
I have loved this conversation so much. I know we could go on for days. I get so excited. Like, let's just go down the rabbit hole, Alex.
Yes.
But I think this is a good landing place for this conversation. So I really appreciate you showing up and speaking your truth, saying it with your chest. Like you said, this was everything I'd hoped for and more. And so I will make sure to include would you like your Instagram handle or what like to be in the description
Yeah,
for
let's do it. Let's do Instagram handle.
Okay, perfect. Do that. And I would encourage anybody who does see this or listen to this to, if you have questions or you want to add to the conversation, like let's do that because we're talking about rebuilding the community, one that upholds the new world. And to do that, we need to exchange thoughts and ideas and learn from each other. And different perspectives are extremely expansive for us to do that. It's innovative. So don't be shy. Alex and I didn't record this part of the conversation, but we were talking about at the very beginning of like how it can feel really challenging to talk about these topics that ruffle feathers and that may be uncomfortable. But it's incredibly important for us to explore not just these topics like of the world and our environment, but for our own selves and our own self-discovery to really know what's true for you and what you stand for, which may change and evolve over time. But right now, there's no time like the present. And so being, what is the word, inquisitive can lead to new insights. And I think that's what's necessary, what's really needed in order to heal what has become our society today and the world we live in.
I
Anything else?
am who I am through integrity. I remain who I am by choice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
I love you.
Love you. Thank you, my friend.
Talk to you soon.